The recent Kenya-Germany labour agreement has attracted significant attention as it sets a new precedent in labour migration between African nations and European countries. One of the defining features of the agreement is its focus on structured pathways for skilled and semi-skilled workers. Unlike traditional labour migration pacts, which often focus on short-term, low-skilled employment, this arrangement emphasises professional development and long-term career opportunities for Kenyan workers in various sectors of the German economy. Jason Wendell, strategy lead at Labour Mobility Partnerships, joins me now from Washington with more on this. Jason Wendell, it's always a pleasure having you on Channel's Business Global. Now, I know that Labour Mobility Partnerships weren't a part of the new Kenya-Germany labour agreement, but of course you're an expert in this area. Could you talk to me about some of these key features and why it was trending everywhere when it was announced last week?
Sure, yeah. I think what's exciting and interesting about this agreement is historically, when you think about bilateral labor agreements between Africa and another country, it's typically the Gulf that's in the news. So Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. And the situation in those countries, fundamentally, one of the biggest differences is that there they have different wage laws. There's wages for expatriates and there's wages for locals. But when you're talking about a labor agreement with a place like Germany, you're not talking about a two-tiered system. If you can get a job in Germany, you're paid the same as any other German. You're subject to the same labor laws as any other German. And the salary opportunities, the wage earning opportunities are just so much more dramatically higher as a result. I think the other thing that's interesting is that there hasn't been an East African agreement with Europe like this that I know, and the the government has been speaking a lot about the need for workers, and that's also, I think, rare. Many European countries really do need more skilled workers to come to their country. They're aging, as we know, but very few have been very vocal about that. A lot of times they're not making a public statement about it. Germany and Kenya have gotten on the public stage and said, this is something we want to do. This is something that we think is important. And so the most important value of this agreement, I think, is a signal that Germany and I think other countries are ready to come to the table and start thinking about how do we solve some of the challenges. Of course, in Africa, we have a lot of youth, a lot of talent, and a challenge of how do we find employment. And so I'm excited about the public nature of it. I'm excited about the fact that people are starting to name the issue and the challenge and figure out how do we solve the problems that enable people to access these opportunities.
Thank you, Jason, for that thorough assessment. It's interesting, actually, you said, it's the first time we're kind of seeing this signalling on the public platforms. And I've got to tell you, the public perception has been quite poor. I don't know if you're keeping an eye on what's happening in Europe, but, in the UK during the summer, there were riots about migrants, lots of misinformation, of course. But so on the one hand, you've got Europeans saying, no, we want our borders closed. We don't want foreigners coming in, taking all our jobs. And on the other hand, you've got, African observers saying, no, what about the brain drain? And we don't want our citizens to be used and abused and left with severe mental health issues when they go to these countries and they're not accepted and they don't have their family and their loved ones. That is a massive hurdle. Do you think policymakers are aware of this? Are they able to tackle this issue of public perception? Because without having the public on the side, these deals are going to fall flat.
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly right. There's public perception issues on both sides of the border. In the European side, I think what hopefully the messaging can come through is that Europeans have often been worried about people coming to the border or coming across the border prior to having a role in society or prior to having a job, and then they're looking for a way to fit in or looking for public services. This, I think, is a very different type of migration where when Kenyans are coming to Germany, they're coming because they already have secured a university slot, a vocational training slot, or a full-time job. Those things mean that they're already been identified by someone, a particular employer or a particular training institute, as someone that Germany needs to come. And so I'm hoping that helps to change the perception of what is a migrant in Europe. And people, I have found when you speak to employers about these types of programs, they themselves they put it in a different category than like illegal immigration or irregular migration or even asylum seeking, etc. On the the Kenyan side, concerns about how people are treated in Germany or brain drain. I think we can talk about both of those. The first, certainly there's going to be cultural integration challenges. One of the key ways to address that is by engaging the diaspora. So there are 14,000 Kenyans in Germany already, and they are able to form groups that welcome and help integrate folks. I was in Japan looking at efforts from Kenya to try to enable workers to access opportunities in Japan. It's a much smaller diaspora, as you can imagine, in Japan. But even there, we met about 1,200. There's about 1,200 Kenyans who are saying, yes, we'll welcome Kenyans. We'll help them figure out how to navigate the difficult rules of Japanese society. I think Germany is going to be a bit easier because Germans being in Kenyan classrooms for a number of years, and there is kind of a little bit of a history of movement back and forth.
It's a long journey, but at least from what we have seen, what I have seen, it does appear to be a win-win on both sides. But let's just hope we can go from the pledges and the handshakes to the actuality and the implementation. Jason Wendell, who is the strategy lead at Labour Mobility Partnerships, or LAMP, as you say. Thank you so much for your time and expertise on the show today.
Sure, thank you. It's good to speak to you.